Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, we're going to be talking about yoga and meditation and the science behind it, as I am joined by author and yoga and meditation expert, Ann Swanson. Ann has a couple of books on the subject of yoga and meditation. She's even worked with people from Harvard on the subject. This didn't come natural to Ann, as she was not always a chill person, but now she's mastered it and got it down, so she can help you get it down and learn about the science behind it as well. So, Ann, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, and if I can meditate, being a very anxious person by nature, then anyone can meditate.
Well, why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I came to yoga and meditation and mind-body practices because I myself was very anxious and dealt with chronic pain. And I felt that it helped me relax. But at first, the meditation part of it was especially challenging for me. My mind would wander. I would look at my watch and I would think, oh, I already did my yoga practice. It's time to go. I have things to do. But then in time, I started experimenting with different techniques and I found some that worked for me. And now I teach people meditation according to my new book, Meditation for the Real World, that is applied into their life, to integrate it into your life, to get immediate results, to benefit you so that you can feel less anxious, you can sleep better, you can feel more confident going into an interview or whatever you're trying to do. Meditation can support you in everyday life.
So what made you want to get into meditation in the first place? Because I know you went to China to even study it. So talk about what made you want to get deep into it in the first place and going over to China to study it.
Yeah, well, I was first in China and I had studied Chinese and I was teaching English there. And I was very depressed. It was polluted and I felt like I needed something to help me get through the depression, the isolation, the anxiety while I was there. And I started doing more and more yoga and Tai Chi in the parks and meditation. And one of my yoga teachers, he told me, you know what, you should go to India. You're already close. So I ended up going to India and I did my teacher training there in yoga and meditation and sound healing and a variety of like mind body practices, massage. And I left there in love with the philosophy of meditation. As my teacher, he really emphasized that, but he also emphasized the physiology of yoga and meditation, how it affects our brain, how it affects every system of our body. And I knew I wanted to go deeper into the anatomy, physiology, and science. So I thought, the best way to be a great yoga teacher would be to go into the medical field. So I came back after having an art degree. I came back to the US and I did the full pre-med course load. I worked in a cadaver lab. I became a massage therapist in night school. And I just explored the human body from a variety of different perspectives. And at the end of this course load, I decided to get my master's of science in yoga therapy. That was really ultimately what I was studying to do. And when the first program that was a graduate degree in this field came up, I was like, well, that's what I want to do anyway. So I ended up going into that instead.
Okay, well, on your second book, you also work with a neuroscientist from Harvard on it. So tell us about who that was and what that was like and how that connection came about.
Yes. So my second book is Meditation for the Real World. My first book is called Science of Yoga, and it's really focused on the science as well as the application. And I knew I wanted to focus on this book, on the science as well as like real world practices you can do with step by steps. And for the science part, I had seen a TED talk by Dr. Sarah Lazar. She is a Harvard neuroscientist who's really done a lot of groundbreaking research in the field of meditation and yoga over the last couple decades. She puts people from, beginner meditators to advanced meditators like monks into these fancy fMRI scanners and peers into their brains to see the changes from meditation. And it's really quite profound what we've seen. So I wanted to integrate that into the book. How does meditation affect your brain, affect the aging brain, affect you to focus better, to have less mental health concerns, as well as how does meditation scientifically affect every system of our body, which it does, even at a cellular level. So I worked with her to integrate the most cutting edge research into meditation for the real world so that people could be truly convinced this is not woo woo. This is evidence based. This has strong research to support it. And that convinces a lot of us to actually practice. And then, of course, here are the step by step. Here's how you practice based off of that research.
Okay, well, give some best practice tips for all the people out there who mind seems to wander too much every time they're trying to meditate, and so they feel like they're bad at it and can't do it.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Curtis, because most people, that's what they say is they say, I am not good at meditating. I've tried, but my mind wanders too much. But really, meditation is boot camp for your focus. It is meant for the wandering mind to help us focus better. And part of meditation is mind wandering because it happens to all of us. Even the most advanced meditators, their minds wander at times. The act of meditation is not just the act of focusing in on one thing as we think it is, whether it be focusing on your breath or word you repeat or whatever the teacher may say you should focus on. There's a lot of different focal points. We think that that's what meditation is. We have to just focus the whole time. But meditation is actually a cycle or process. So it involves focusing. You're told to focus, and specific neural networks pick up when you're focusing. And then, of course, within time, it could be a couple seconds, a couple minutes, and minutes if you're very, very advanced. It's probably a couple seconds. Your mind will start to wander. The key is noticing your mind wanders. Most of the time during the day, we don't realize we're talking to ourselves. But in meditation, we're practicing stepping back and being an observer and noticing the natural tendency of the mind to wander. And then you're going to determine through different network activity in your brain, you're going to determine, is this important or not? So if your mind is wandering to something like your list of things to do while you are cooking, for example, that's mind wandering. Now, if you're wandering during meditation, you're thinking, oh, well, this is what I have to do later. This is what I have said yesterday. Your mind wanders to something, right? You're going to come back to that focal point. And because that's not that important in the moment, you're supposed to focus on that focal point. So you're just going to redirect back. That's meditation. Now, if it's something important, like your mind is wandering to the fire alarm going off, you know what? You're going to say, let's stop the meditation and get out of the house. But if it's just that mind wandering to something else other than the focal point, you're going to come back. That cycle is meditation. It keeps repeating. And the more you practice it, the better you get at it. Practice doesn't make perfect. You're not going to be perfectly present all the time. Practice makes presence more often. You're going to be able to come back quicker. And in real world, that means that we're going to be able to go into the flow state when we're working, when we're making music, when we're creating our art. We're going to be able to be in flow state, in that completely engulfed in the moment state. And when we're washing the dishes and when we're cooking, we're going to be more mindful, more present during those activities too, right? And there's an association between being present, not just an association. It is a causation between being present and happy. You're happier when you're present and doing whatever you're doing.
Well, why do you feel like most people fail at developing a consistent practice, meditation practice, and what can they do to get a more consistent meditation practice?
Most people think it's this like big thing they have to add to their to-do list. Like, I got to meditate 20 minutes every day. And they start with that. And that's really a challenging thing to say, I'm going to meditate 20 minutes every day. That's an advanced practice. Instead, we need to think of it rather than something we add to our list of things to do. It's something we integrate into our lives and start small. Even 1 minute meditations count. They count to train your brain to get back to presence. And if you integrate these 1 minute meditations into critical moments in your day, you are going to get immediate effects. You're going to perhaps even get more benefits than doing a longer practice in the day if you do several 1 minute meditations. So in order to develop a good habit of anything, what research shows us is that we want to pair it with something we already have a strong habit of. So if you want to meditate, maybe you have a strong habit of making a cup of coffee or tea in the morning. You're going to make it, you're going to smell it brewing. And before you take your first sip, that's when you do even a 1 minute meditation, a 5 minute meditation, whatever you can. Or you can also integrate little cues through your day, like before you send that stressful email or that text you might regret, you take a moment, you take even a 1 breath meditation, check in with your body. Notice how you feel before you press send. And then open your eyes, turn back, and you can proceed with a clearer mind. So these short, brief meditations also can be triggered by cues you have through your day when you need it most. You know, you're about to go to an interview. Before you press accept on that Zoom call, just take a minute and notice your breath. Allow the breath to slow down for just a minute or even less, and you'll feel the difference.
Okay, everybody, it's Michael E. Cullen II.
And I'm Sesame and Carta from the All Too Real 2 podcast. We're passionate about movies, TV, and pretty much all things pop culture.
Dive into the chaos of failed sitcoms, direct-to-video sequels, and the quirky realms of cinema and TV.
Join us every Thursday for your dose of All Too Real 2 entertainment.
We'll guide you through debates like whether Howard the Duck qualifies as a superhero.
Ponder if Larry the Cable Guy could be the new Rock or Schwarzenegger.
Discover if some shows and movies should have stayed in the cutting room.
Ever heard of a sitcom featuring that dictator with the funny mustache? Well, we watched it.
We're dedicated to unraveling the peculiarities of pop culture, sometimes with awesome guests.
So, if you're into the eccentric world of pop culture,
listen and subscribe to All Too Real 2.
Available wherever you find podcasts
and on Age of Radio.
Well, talk to the listeners about the science-backed benefits of meditation.
Well, we know meditation is good for the mind. Some of the most convincing evidence is on mental health. Meditation helps you deal with anxiety and depression as an adjunctive therapy. It can be extremely effective. And also trauma and sleep concerns. So a lot of mental health, stress management, burnout. It can help you manage those challenges by stepping back and becoming observer of your thoughts. You're less involved in that conversation that speeds through your head. You're able to be a little bit more distant from it for a moment and have some more perspective. You're not trying to stop your thoughts. They're just naturally slowing when you do that. That's a misconception. People think I'm trying to stop my thoughts, but no, you're not. You're just observing and redirecting back to that focal point. So really good for your focus as well. Focus and cognition and learning. It also helps with an aging brain. As we get older, our brain tissue basically degrades. The brain gets smaller. We look at a brain of somebody in their 20s versus the brain of somebody like my 99-year-old grandpa, his brain would be smaller. And that naturally happens to all of us, and especially in critical areas of the brain that are important for cognition and memory. Those areas tend to degrade more as we age, as well as when we deal with trauma and depression and mental health concerns. But the exact areas that degrade with age and mental health issues, those areas are rebuilt by meditation. Meditation helps to retrain the neural connections and rebuild the tissue. So it's as if your brain were younger, were acting younger when you're aging. That's something I think a lot of us are looking to now. As scientists have said, the first person to live to be 150 has been born, and some have even said the first person to live to be 1,000 has been born. But what's living a long time if you're not able to have the mental acuities and capacities that you were? So I think a lot of people are becoming more and more interested in how can we preserve those sort of things as we age. But it's not just your brain. Meditation affects all the systems of your body. And even at a cellular level, your cells begin to act as if they were younger. We can reverse biological age or the functioning age, genetic age of your cells, so they act younger. And we can improve our digestion if you're dealing with IBS. Meditation has shown to help with digestion, immunity, less sick days at work, less time where you're struggling with being really tired and sick and kind of under the weather. I think a lot of us would really like to have more vitality and energy, which meditation brings over time.
Well, talk to us about some best practice tips on how to better optimize our meditation practice.
Yeah, people think, in order to meditate, I need it to be perfectly silent and like a yoga studio or like a Zen temple. But really, if it's loud in your house and there's kids screaming down the hall playing and there's, sounds of sirens going by, that's actually a great time to meditate, because if you can find peace and ease during that chaotic sounds and time, and then you're going to be able to find peace and ease through your everyday life. It's the best practice, right? It's boot camp for our focus. It's boot camp for our stress resilience. So it's actually totally cool to meditate in a chaotic environment. The cover of my book, Meditation for the Real World, has somebody sitting on a train, on a subway, and they have headphones on, and they're the only one that looks relaxed. They're sitting tall and they're just noticing their breath and relaxing. Everybody else around them is hunched over a cell phone scrolling. So rather than scrolling while you wait, when you're in a waiting room at the doctor's office, or you just have a little downtime, rather than scrolling, which we know can affect our mental health in a negative way with comparisonitis and other issues, meditate while you wait. Even with your eyes open, if you're in a place like an airport, like keep the eyes open and just notice your breath, notice the changing visuals around you, and take a minute or a couple minutes to just ground down and be present. So I would say, don't be afraid of it being too loud or needing to be the perfect circumstances. If you can integrate meditations into your everyday life, that's even better. That's even better practice. None of us are monks where we don't have that sort of perfect environment. It's best to learn how to be calm amidst the chaos. And then when your mind wanders, look at that as an opportunity to practice presence, to come back to the focal point. The fact that you noticed is a big deal, because most of the time we're just listening to our thoughts during the day and we're believing them all. We're believing that chatter in our mind, which oftentimes tends to skew quite negative. If you're somebody that worries or has these negative kind of intrusive thoughts, know that that's normal, because it's human nature for there to be a negativity bias in our brains. It's in order to keep you safe. Now, meditation can help us step back and not believe our thoughts, to be able to be more objective and more at ease. So when your mind wanders or you have negative thoughts, know that that's normal and see it as an opportunity to come back to present moment. And I would start with, just noticing your breath. It's the simplest thing. So you can notice your natural breath. You can do it as you're listening right now. And you can notice that breath. It will start to naturally even change or slow down as you slow down to notice it. And if you want to enhance the relaxation response and feel more ease, you can even change your breath strategically by elongating your exhales. So as you're listening, you can make your exhales maybe about twice as long as your inhale. So maybe a 2-count inhale and a 4-count exhale, or maybe a 3-count inhale and a 6-count exhale. You can continue on as you're listening. You don't have to count once you get the hang of it. You'll just feel. What does it feel like to make the exhales longer? Just a couple breaths or a couple minutes of that makes a huge difference. There's physiological changes to observing and elongating your breaths. You become calmer, your blood pressure goes down, your heart rate will also go down. You're going to feel more focused and at ease just from a few breaths or from a few minutes.
Okay, well, I heard a rumor about you, and I want to see if it's true. Is it true that you use meditation to manifest a book contract?
Yeah, I'm really into science. I have a master's of science. I study and read research all the time. You wouldn't think I'd be into this side that perhaps some people feel like it's a little woo-woo, like manifesting. There's so many like Instagram people into manifest your dreams, and it can feel a little woo-woo. But when we look at it, if you know what you want, you set a goal, then that's going to help you be more likely to achieve it. We know this from research in business and finances. You set a goal, and then your brain is going to be constantly looking for ways to achieve that goal. Also, we know that mindset is really important. And with meditation, you can get into a better, more positive, more grateful mindset, more compassionate mindset. You can retrain that negativity bias to be in a truly positive, not a fake positive, but a truly resilient and positive perspective. And when you're in that state, when you're visualizing what you want and you believe it and you're grateful for it in meditations, and then that's where your brain is through the day, you're more likely to attract these things. You're more likely to meet somebody and have a conversation that leads you to the next thing. So for me, I was going through a really challenging time. I was applying for jobs and I was getting rejected constantly. And I felt a little down about it. I applied, I think, 100 jobs and I'd gotten all these rejections and I felt overqualified too. I had a master's degree. I was like, why am I not getting these jobs? And so I was reading a ton of self-help books and doing meditations and journaling on how to get into that good mindset. But despite feeling, constantly pushed down by getting these rejection letters, I felt hope. I knew that there was a big project coming my way that would really culminate everything I'd learned and everything I had done from my travels through India and from my time in graduate school studying the science behind yoga and meditation. I knew there was a project that was coming that would do that. Now, I thought it was going to be teaching a graduate course at a school. I thought that it was going to be something very specific. I did not dream of writing a book. That was not in my specific goal. But my goal was a big creative project that would culminate all that I'd learned. And while I was applying for jobs, I had gotten an email out of the blue from my publishers, DK, who's part of Penguin Random House. And they had offered me a book contract. If anybody out there has written a book or wants to write a book, you know that getting a book contract is usually a really, really hard thing with like needing an agent and all sorts of things to get that. And so I had ignored it because I was, just in my little bubble. And they followed up and I looked closer and I was like, wow, this is the thing I've been dreaming about. This is what I've been creating those good vibes from meditating and resilient attitude for was this project. I didn't even imagine this is better than what I imagined. And so I signed a contract for my first book, Science of Yoga, with Penguin Random House. It has since been translated into 15 languages. And my second book, Meditation for the Real World, is also with the same publisher, DK, and it just came out. So I'm excited for it to be translated and be received around the world.
Well, how long does a person need to meditate to make it work?
Good question. So to manifest all your dreams, you might have to build a meditation practice where you're doing daily, a practice that's like 10 minutes at least a day and doing these 1 minute meditations through the day. So you want to integrate them through your life. But really, those 1 minute meditations are great to reset when you're noticing, oh, wow, I'm having a lot of negative, intrusive thoughts right now. That's a great time to do a 1 minute meditation. And there's many techniques. It's not just focusing on your breath. I mean, sometimes that meditation technique does not work for me. It depends on the circumstance. And that's what Meditation for the Real World offers is meditations for different circumstances, like when you're waiting on a subway, when you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed, when you're mourning the loss of a loved one, when you're about to get ready to do a sport and you want to really focus and perform at your peak abilities in that sport or activity. So different meditations for different purposes could be fit through your day, and that is going to lead to immediate results that you'll see. So it could be pretty immediate depending on the results you're looking for. I mean, if you did those elongated exhales with me, or you're still doing them now as you're listening, you're probably already feeling the physiological changes in your body as you breathe. So some of the effects are immediate. And then some of these longer term effects, like building up the brain tissue, they take, weeks to months, and they get better and better with years. The more you practice, the better it gets. But yeah, even just a minute can make a difference.
Well, how can listeners purchase your books, and what can they expect when they read them?
Yeah, definitely go to meditationfortherealworld.com. I have all the links to buy it, on Amazon or wherever you want to buy books. You can get the book, but you'll let me know that you got it. And I'm giving you and your listeners this free gift of being able to listen to audio meditations that guide you through the book and give you tips on how to integrate it into your life. I even integrate it into these audio meditations sounds and music that has been engineered to optimize your brainwaves practice. So you can get even more benefits or get into that focal point easier and quicker. And so definitely go to meditationfortherealworld.com and check that out.
Okay, tell us about any current or upcoming projects that you're working on that the listeners need to be aware of.
Ooh, what do I want to reveal? So I enjoyed making the meditations for the meditation challenge that I'm giving you all free with purchasing the book. And I enjoyed working with my producer to create these sounds based off of nature and sounds that optimize your brainwaves. I enjoyed this process so much. Like what I gave that comes free with the book is like phenomenal. So I was like, I want to do this more. I want to put out meditations every single week. So coming this spring, a little bit later this spring, I'm going to be starting a meditation membership where you get the meditations that I create with the music every single week. So if you want to like inspire your practice, whether you're an absolute beginner or somebody that meditates that wants some inspiration, that's going to be for you. So you'll find out more about that when you go to meditationfortherealworld.com. I also train people to be meditation teachers, if that's something that folks are interested in, and with this really science-backed real world approach.
Okay, well, you just answered my next question by throwing out the website meditationfortherealworld.com.
Yes.
So close us out with some final thoughts. If that was something I forgot to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
I think that one thing about meditation is that we want to practice it, but bring it into the real world. So you'll notice that your behaviors start to change, your relationships start to improve. And so one thing you could do right now is do something positive. Tell somebody you appreciate them. You could text a loved one, just say, I appreciate you. You could write a review for this podcast. Writing reviews for podcasts or anything you love is like a great way to put good vibes into the world. Take a moment and do something to put good vibes into the world. Send that text message. You can even pause this and do that. And then you're going to take a moment and feel how it feels physically in your body to do that good deed. Scientists call this a helper's high when you do something good, but I invite you to bask in it, to really feel it and use that as your meditation. A lot of times we feel it in our heart area. Breathe into it. Notice where you feel it and how it feels in your body. Sometimes when I do something nice, I'll feel like it's as if a weight has been taken off my shoulders. It's really good for our own well-being to do nice things, random acts of kindness for others. So do something nice for someone, a random act of kindness, and then take a minute, do a 1-minute meditation and feel how it feels. That's my homework for you all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're going to get your homework done because there'll be a quiz after. Also, make sure you go to meditationfortherealworld.com and check out everything that Ann's up to. Get that book. Please be sure to follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. If you have any guest or suggestion topics, cjackson102@cox.net is the place to send them. As always, thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for listening. And Ann, thank you for joining us and sharing your expertise.
Thank you so much.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.